My name is Emmanuel Faith. I graduated from Oberfam University 4 years ago. I like to say that. And I miss doing this. Great, friend. Nice. I like the energy. Okay. There are a lot of factors that contribute, to our success. And these factors determine how fast, how quick, how easy, and how sustainable our success is. As I said, one of these factors is where we live. How many of us do yoga here? Okay, let's do a 10 seconds yoga. Can we all close our eyes? Don't open. Play your childhood memories. What do you remember? Someone said, hi, Jesus. Do you remember mommy flogging you? Daddy and mommy? Police and thief? Did anybody get flogged because they went to play football? Okay, we can all open our eyes. I got the point. What we just experienced is how where we lived affected, who we are today. How many of us have studied engineering or studied mathematics or is currently studying mathematics because you went for cowbell competition or Olympiad, right? How many of us studied law because we had an auntie who was looking peng in black skirt and white blouse? Or studied accounting or economics because we had someone who was in smart suits and trousers. Anybody? Interesting. These are some people's reality shaped by the kind of people they lived with and where they grew up. Bonjour tout le monde. Comment ça va? Ah, nice. Interesting. We all know that. I'm impressed. I started taking interest in French because of who I lived with when I was in high school. He attended a secondary school where French was taught. Of course, I'm from the trenches and I attended a lesser secondary school. But having a friend or a colleague or a neighbor who attended a school where French was taught spurred my interest in French. Till today, I might not be able to string 4 or 5 sentences in French, but in the nearest future, when I decide to take French serious, it would be because I lived with someone who spoke French when he was in high school. Between 2018 and 2020, I read 303 books, reading 100 books, 100 to 103 books every year. A lot of people were surprised. I wasn't, because I'd been reading since age 6 to 7. I read Chike and the River, Alan Quatermain, King Solomon Mines, The Drummer Boy, and these books we are all familiar with. And so taking out time to read 101 books in a year, or 303 books in 3 years, was not exactly surprising. Moving on. According a New York best-selling author, Malcolm Gladwell, wrote a book titled Outlier. Has anybody read it? Exciting. In his book, Outlier, he said, where we live and how we live is largely shaped by where we live. And he used an illustration that we can all connect with. Bill Gates. How many of us know Bill Gates? What comes to mind when we hear Bill Gates? Okay, assign money. What's the name of the company you founded? Exciting. So let me tell you some more things you did not know about Bill Gates. The first, Bill Gates grew up in Seattle. Seattle is one of the most popular counties in Washington, D.C., and Washington is the capital of the United States of America, the most powerful nation in the world. That means that Bill Gates did not grow up in the trenches. He attended the richest secondary school, Lakeside. Yeah, the richest secondary school in his community, Lakeside. Not just that, his school PTA, not the school. The school's PTA bought him a mainframe. To put it in context, this was 1968. How many of us took computer lessons? I remember mainframe, mini, micro, mainframe, mini, micro. Hey, you people attended trenches school. Nice. So, as of 1968, Bill Gates had a mainframe. The third fact, Bill Gates lived just 5 minutes from University of Washington. Just imagine what's the biggest uni in Nigeria? I don't know. We are not there yet. Where you? Nice. So imagine a primary 5 students living close to this school, or an SS2 student. I know some of us did it. You come to school and take lectures even when you are not resumed. How many of us did that? Nobody. I did it. Yeah, so like when I wrote my first German, I passed, but I didn't get admission. I came to school to take lectures. That was what Bill Gates was doing. So Bill Gates would stroll to, University of Washington to use their lab, and he wrote so much code as in 1968 that they actually gave him their lab to start writing code. He was 13. If you're a product designer or a product manager or a backend or a front end there, and you started writing code at 13, can you imagine what your life will look like now? Exactly. In fact, according to the author of Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel, he said the chances of having the kind of childhood or teenage years that Bill Gates had is 1 out of 100,000. That means to live the kind of life that Bill Gates lived, the chances are 0.000001. So why won't Bill Gates find Microsoft? Where we live affects the kind of career we have. Another reason why where we live is important was proven by Rad Chetty, an Harvard economics and researcher, who interestingly also had a very exciting growing up, given that in India, he had a father who was an engineer and a mother who was a doctor. What did Raj and his colleagues say? They said that according to research, where you live determines how much you earn and the quality of college that you go to. So that means just by living in Mushin versus living in Ikoyi, or living in Berioje versus living in Bodija Estates, that can literally determine how much you earn. Isn't that amazing? Moving on, another interesting fact about where we live and how we live is that it affects the social perception of us. In a recent conversation with Forbes by Indra Nooyi, who is the chairperson of PepsiCo. How many of us know PepsiCo? The maker of Pepsi, 7-Amount. Okay, yeah. And then Priyanka Chopra, who is like one of the most popular Bollywood, Hollywood, not Nollywood, please. Bollywood, Hollywood, actresses. They had a conversation with Forbes, and they both spoke about how they grew up and the kind of parents they had. For instance, Indra Nooyi's mom was an illiterate. And despite the fact that she was an illiterate, she ensured that Indra Nooyi went to school ahead of marriage priorities. The same was for Priyanka, whose father was a community clan who comes from one of the most traditional communities in India, yet insisted that her daughter gets the highest level of education. Now, if you watch Bollywood or you have Indian friends or colleagues, you will know that in India, marriage ranks ahead of any other thing. Yes or yes? But because of the kind of neighborhood, because of the kind of parents they had, they were able to get the best of education, which positioned them for these opportunities. And lastly, where we live affects our quality of life and longevity of life, if you can call it like that. I read a book recently. The title is Ikigai, and I don't know if I've read Ikigai or said Ikigai. Ah, nice. Someone is reading. So there was a tribe in Japan, Ogimi. Now, in Ogimi, when you're living in Ogimi, you automatically have a life expectancy rate that is 20% ahead of any urban city and 10% ahead of every other person. I'll bring it home. That means that if a baby was born in Ogimi today and another baby was born in Lagos for Nigeria, London for UK, New York for USA, that baby will automatically live 20 years less than someone that was born in Ogimi. Why? Because people in Ogimi, when they wake up, the first thing to do is to greet their neighbors, walk on the top of the roof, admire the nature, greet the flowers. I'm very sure Lagosians cannot relate. Because before they wake up, they're already thinking about the traffic. Even what's before they wake up? As you are going home in the evening, by the time you get home, you're already thinking about who will I join? Where will I join? Where should I take it tomorrow's bus? And even if you have a ride, Uber or Bolt, you're already thinking about the traffic. This is just to reinforce the importance of how where we live literally shapes our life. Now, it looks like I'm a messenger of doom. No, I am not. There are people who have changed their story despite where they lived. How many of us know this person? Yeah, I don't know if the screen is clear. Can anybody see her? Asisa Oshuala. That is what I was expecting. I was almost certain that someone would say Agbabola. Because I love female football a lot, Asisa Oshuala is one of the players I respect. Not only is she the only African to have been nominated for Ballon d'Or, she's the only African to have won African Player of the Year 5 times. She's the only African player to have won the UEFA Champions League, to score a brace in Champions League, and she was the inaugural winner of the BBC UK Player of the Year. That was inaugurated in 2007, somewhere around that. But she didn't have it all that easy. Asa grew up in a place called Ikorodu. Yeah. And if you're in Lagos, if you're a lady and you stay in Ikorodu, you don't even mention where you stay. Right? But that's where Asa grew up. And then she went to Robo FC and then played FIFA under 17, then under 20, then went to England, then to China, then to Spain. Another interesting story of people that have succeeded despite where they lived and how they grew up is an acquaintance named Destiny Ogedengbe. Is that name familiar? Exactly. Destiny recently gained double admission, right, into an Ivy League uni, Oxford and Harvard, and he had to settle for Harvard. Excuse me. To put it in proper perspective, Harvard acceptance rate is 6%. That means that for every 100 people applying to Harvard, they only pick 6. And Destiny was one of those 6. The acceptance rate of Oxford is 17%. That means for every 100 people applying to Oxford, they only pick 17, and it was picked. This was someone that grew up in Sakomba. Anybody knows Benin? Yeah, exactly. So Sakomba is like the trenches of Benin, and he's enjoying his life now in Harvard. This is to say that despite where you lived, you can change how you live. The question then is how. Like Asisat, like my friend, my acquaintance, Destiny, you can change your destiny by doing the following. 1, acknowledge where you are, your current realities. One of the reasons why I love Nigerian musicians is that in their lyrics, they acknowledge their reality and they always tell their journey. For example, Ni oju elegba o. Exactly. Nice. So, Wizkid is flying around the world today and is winning Grammy. But it started from Oju Elegba, and it will never neglect that fact. Now, this is what acknowledging your current reality does for you. It reminds you of how hard you have to work, how tenacious you have to be, the effort you have to put in. Because think about it. A Nigerian applying to Oxford versus someone who did his bachelor's in UCL or King's College, both applying to Oxford. The Nigerian probably has to work 5 times, if not 10 times harder, to get that the same opportunity that the person, who graduated from UCL has. Is that correct? Is that a safe assumption? So acknowledge your reality. I do not deny the fact that I grew up in the trenches. In fact, let me tell you a trenches story. The first time I ate a meal of 6,000 naira at a restaurant, of course, it was not my money. It was my manager's. What I was thinking about as I was eating that 6,000 naira food was, my God, this is money for a quarter bag of rice. Oh. Yes, that's the kind of background I come from. So I do not deny this, and this helps me work harder and keep my head up high every day. The second is to expand your imagination. When you are from the trenches, there are chances that you'll be limited by your imagination. And it is not your fault. The people you grew up with are people who have a level of conversation. There are some things that even if you mention, they cannot relate. So you have to expand your imaginations. How do you do this? Talk to people outside your space. Send a message to someone on LinkedIn. I remembered before I joined Cowrywise, when I wanted to know how senior HR professionals think, what I did was to go to LinkedIn and send a message to at least 5 professionals every Saturday. So at the end of a month, I sent a message to 20 professionals. And at the end of 6 months, I'd reached out to 120 professionals. Of course, not all of them got back to me. But I've also built excellent connections from this. And I've learned how people think. When I wanted to learn how global HR works, I reached out to a lot of HR. Netflix, Amazon, Microsoft. Some will go, some will not respond. Some will respond 3 months after. But for those that respond, even though the response rate was less than 10%, I got insights into how they do things. And I've been able to replicate some of those things at Cowrywise where I work today. So expand your imagination. Travel. And if you can't travel, watch travel bloggers. Imagine yourself as they are skydiving. Imagine that you are the one. What this is doing is taking you out of your current reality into your future reality. The third point, explore global opportunities. We will not be standing here if TED did not decide to democratize TED and then have TEDx, which TEDxOAU now decide to host in OAU. A round of applause for TEDxOAU planning committee. So explore global opportunities. You're still an undergraduate. Apply for hackathon. Google is doing their first. Apply. Apply for internship at Bank of America. Apply for Goldman Sachs. You are a law student. Apply for international motor law competition. Apply for space law competition, air law. All those things that they not teach you in school. Apply and start researching. Either you get these opportunities or not. What this process will do for you is to expand your mind and broaden your horizon. And so that way you stop thinking local and start thinking global. And lastly, go for gold. It is very important that you do not limit yourself to your status, to your position, to your background, and to your CGPA. I had a conversation recently with a friend about a school I wanted to apply to. And I was like, they know they accept you to. I was like, apply. I'm like, bro, put it there, first class. Like, they are not even taking the class upper division. Only first class. I was like, oh, apply. What's the worst that will happen? They will not move on to the next round. And if you move on to the next round, kill them at the interview. Let them know that you're from the trenches. That's why you finish with 2-2. That's the way I finish with 2-2. Anyway, go for gold. There is no goal that is impossible. One of my favorite sayings from my friend, who is interestingly also now at Oxford today, from Ogbobosho. He said that there is nothing like too much imagination, because your biggest imagination is someone else's reality. You want to attend Harvard, you want to attend Oxford. That's some people's current reality. So, dream high, dream big, go for gold. Remember where we started from. We started from how we live, where we were born, affects how we live. But like I said, it is not a mandate of how we should live. Think about it today. What do I need to do deliberately to change how I want to live from now on? And more importantly, if you don't want to be a celibate, a nun, or a pope, think about things you should do that will create the kind of lifestyle you want your offspring to have. Thank you very much.